key element for the majority of our clients is they want to have a better understanding of what progress is happening across their site versus planned. It is a saving on their labor in terms of their planner or their scheduler or their team, but we're taking photos every single week at the same location. We have a hybrid approach internally of how we process those photos, but ultimately, if your first fix came along and you plaster a load of walls, we could track that, and I could tell you the next week when we've taken the photos what percentage that work has been done and also where it's been done.
Hello everybody, welcome back to I'm the Gaffer, Gavin Coyle here with a brilliant guest today, and I want you to think about your construction business. I want you to think about your operations, and you're probably building a project at the moment, or you're working on a project that has a principal contractor, and I want you to think about the quality of what you're building, how you're building it, the information that you're collecting around the constructability of that project, and the validation that you're getting the right data so that you can understand where you're at in terms of maybe the cost of of the budget of where you're at with that particular project. Are you making money? Are you not making money? Is it being built in accordance with the spec? Are you doing things, or are you building things, or have you agreed to sign up to build extra things that you haven't allowed for and that you're not aware of, but yet you've put a team in place that actually have continued on and agreed to go ahead and build this type of extras that you haven't allowed for? And how do you control that risk? I have a gentleman who's very experienced in this area in terms of helping people understand in a visual and practical and efficient way using, technology, but a technology that is a disruptor. And his name is Will Synnott. He's head of operations, business development, international expansion, the guru in terms of your man on your shoulder who you need to bring your company to the next level and understand risk within your current live operations. And he works for a company called Disperse.io. Will, delighted to have you on board. How are you today?
Gavin, that was a fantastic intro. Thank you. Yes, mate, very good. And appreciate you taking the time to interview me today. And looking forward to hopefully spelling some myths on tech and hopefully some of your listeners, I can help them out. Yeah,
100%. We're all about trying to feed the ecosystem of making life easier for people. More time saved is more time for the business owner. That's the way we look at things. And you can help with that. But I suppose I'd like to get a bit of background on yourself in terms of, you've got a strong construction, network, family network even, and maybe give us a sense of who or where you come from in that journey.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, so I guess family of builders, especially my uncle, who although he will never retire, I think he'll continuously build something. And I've definitely, in terms of the family, there is a passion towards construction and in that industry, and I've continued that. I've gone down. I qualified as an engineer, geotechnical engineer, so foundations, designs, piles, etc. And I was fortunate enough to work on a number of big towers and basements across London. Battersea Power Station, huge projects. And then I started to explore different types of technologies, always been a bit into tech. And ultimately then ended up in a company which I work now at, Disperse, which I've been there for about 2 years, and started off essentially in sales. And I've just worked my way up, hard graft. And now I'm the head of business development for the entire business, where I get to work with, I'm on about 45 to 50 big projects across the UK, Ireland, East Coast of America, and Saudi. And it's brilliant. And the way that our platform works, which I can talk a little bit more about, is I am essentially augmenting, or I'm kind of there just digitally via my laptop, and I can see essentially all the works that are going on. So I get that I get that ability to know that I'm still a part of construction, even though I might have changed career and I'm not necessarily a consultant or an engineer or design engineer. I'm still very much heavily involved in the projects. If anything, I know more about these projects, these buildings, than you could even say that some of the project executives, just the way that our platform works.
Well, I'm intrigued. Me and you have had a couple of conversations offline as well. But what intrigues me about you, Will, is that in your space, there's not many people. There's not many people. Yeah, you're thinking, oh, what's he going to say now? Oh, God.
Exactly.
No, but like,
talk to my wife, have you?
She wants it. No. An engineer that goes into a business development role, it's not a career connection.
It really isn't. And it wasn't something that I was expecting, and it wasn't something I was looking at it all started during COVID, when I started looking at technology. I've always been into technology anyway, but COVID kind of forced me into this world of the fundamentals of Disperse. Is it relies on what we call like reality capture. So like 360 photos. Some of your listeners may have been on like Rightmove and you've walked around a house and it's been like a virtual tour. You might even have some people listening who've actually, I've done that for that was
a big thing in COVID as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, massive
virtual tours.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. And that's what got me into it, because I was like, this is brilliant. And when I'm going out on construction sites, and at the time I was going off into, I was working for Network Rail, and we were inspecting abutments and embankments, and we'd take photos on our iPhones. It was great, but then we were back at home, all huddling around a Teams call, and it was ridiculous. It was just like, I can't see these photos. You would click one button, and then it'll jump to the next photo, but with the other side of the abutment, and it's like, this is ridiculous. So I bought myself a 360 camera, which it was £400 or £500. Nothing relatively cheap, but it was an investment, and which has now ultimately led me to where I am. It's been the best investment.
What do you mean by 360 camera? Like,
it literally is a 360 camera that's like no bigger than an iPhone, and it's got two lenses on either side, and it takes two pictures. So one left and one right, and it essentially just makes a big ball or sphere and allows you to street view. When you've been walking on Google, when you've been walking around on like, that's a 360 photo.
Well, I was just thinking of U2 playing in Las Vegas, actually in the sphere. In the sphere, that's what. Same experience. So a whole wraparound experience.
Not quite the same experience as a U2 gig. Probably like a long shot, but I wouldn't mind going in and giving it a test. But no, that 360. That's essentially what the camera was, and that's what got
you can
me
actually
into
buy a camera. You can actually buy a camera, like
easy.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Second hand, I mean, you can probably get it for £100 now. And you can get it on your iPhone. If you've got one now, you can like just do like a sphere. There's loads of apps out there.
Yeah.
Which anyway, this led me into like this whole world of like reality capture and like taking photos. And because at the time I was investigating abutments and bridges, I was trying to get that information, and I was then going back into the office or remotely during lockdown, and we're all working off this one like model. People call it a digital twin. I think that's the wrong terminology. It's more like a visual twin. And that just allowed us. So, and that technology, and this was 3-4 years ago, has come down greatly in price. And the iPhone or your Google phone, they've got all these new technologies now, such as like photogrammetry, all these things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, anyone, especially your listeners, if they were pricing up a job or a house or some extension works, Polycam, I think it's free. You literally download it onto your iPhone. You need a pro version, which has got the LiDAR. Or in fact, you don't. I think it even works with just photogrammetry. And it takes loads of photos and it builds you this like 3D image, and then you can literally send it to your mate or the other electrician or someone else, and they can remotely look at the job. And that's what kind of led me on to where I am with the Disperse. It's a slightly different field, and we're doing something a little bit different than reality capture.
Yeah.
We're trying to track progress. Well, we are tracking progress and issue detection, but ultimately the fundamentals of our platform is reality capture. And this, I think, has been the biggest game changer in the entire industry in terms of just reality capture, because of the cost has come down so significantly in terms of being able to capture something in its state right then and there, capture it as photos or this like model, this like imagery. And then you I'd do it for my house. If I did some electric works in my house, I've got it and I can archive it, and I always know where those wires are behind that wall anytime. Does that make sense? So literally,
it does. Totally.
I've got that data. Yeah.
And my wife and myself, we do some small renovation projects, and recently she was like, the next builder I appoint, I'm definitely taking pictures of every part, of every partition, of every this, of every that. And I'm going, yeah, that's going to take a lot of pictures. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It makes sense.
It makes total sense. I mean, I guess this is the bit where I would then say, well, what did it cost you? You know, why your wife's obviously said that, but then why did she think that? Because it was a hassle. You had to prove something. There was a claim.
And we're not sure. Was it the right insulation that went into that wall at the right depth? And we're talking about just house renovations that turn into rental properties or whatever. And you kind of go
trying to prove it. Yeah. Well, that fundamentally is also one of the things that Disperse do. So we have an entire team that go out and take regular photos on construction sites. Now, we work on projects that are $1 billion right down to $20 million in size. So there's a huge variety. So I think the smallest size we'll probably do is maybe $5-10 million in terms of a project. So they're still big, but we're taking photos every single week at the same location. Okay, and that's what our team do. And then we have a hybrid approach internally of how we process those photos. But ultimately, if your first fix came along and you put the plasterboard, if they plaster a load of walls, we could track that, and I could tell you the next week when we've taken the photos what percentage that work has been done, and also where it's been done. And if there's been any damage, I can tell you if it hasn't been done in accordance to spec or the drawings, or if it's got rework. And that to the team, the guys on the ground, the boots on the ground, so to speak, is what they want to know. They, especially when you've got big projects and it's freezing cold, and then they need to go to the other side of the building, or the 30th floor on a tall tower. It's like, I've really got to walk up there just to inspect this work. Well, I can give you a visual representation, but then I can also tell you where that contractor has been that week. Yeah. Visually, so it's nothing complicated, just nice and visual. So here they are, some arrows, okay, and that goes this element about digital skills, which we can touch on in a minute, Gavin. But I want to make it as easy as possible. I want to tell you where the problems are, or tell you where they've been working, so then you walk there, and then rather than walking up to the 50th floor and go, they actually weren't there, they're actually on the 49th floor. You can go to that floor, and then you can do the inspection.
You see, when you're talking there, I'm thinking to myself straight away, there's a real good business model to work within your location, within the locality of where your resources are. Right. And once you nail that down, there's a general good rule of thumb that you'll do really well within your own empire, because it's your island. It's your island. But if for example, someone said to you, you know what, you might have a client who operates hotels, and they might say, look, we've got another hotel up north of the country, in Edinburgh or Scotland, whatever. And, we'd love you to do it because we have a trusted relationship with you. Yeah. Straight away, I'm thinking, why wouldn't you use a technology where you can do remote viewing of remote access? Yeah. So,
that's what we see. And you're absolutely right. And I think but also you as an employer, or you're a contractor, like your team are going out there. There's two things here. A, you've got some governance there. You can't go over. Let's say you are based in Dublin, and you've got a team that's going to go over to Scotland, they're going to Glasgow, and they're working over there. It's hard for you to go over there because you're based in a different city. Okay. Yeah. But when you do go over there, it's expensive, and you are going to go over there. But would it not be better if you could go there every week? You could augment yourself as a terminology, which is becoming, you might have heard of augmented reality. Yeah. Or augmenting, we do it all the time. When you go on your phone and you check your bank balance to see how much your wife has spent, you are augmenting yourself to go to the bank. It's just on your phone.
Nobody does that, Will. Sorry.
My wife takes the it all goes. But my point, what I'm getting at, is that manager in Dublin could go over and augment themselves, and then he or she can then provide, guidance remotely, and also inspect. And if there is an issue, they'll know. And it's not just quality we're tracking; we're actually tracking against progress. So we can see how much percentage you've done, and if you've got a schedule of works, like a program, we can throw that in, and you can see where you are against your program.
Okay, so, little old Gavin here, 20, 30 employees, and I do have this issue where I'm spread too thin, and I'm nearly thinking I could have an eyes and ears on the ground system like yours that would allow me to have a charging foreman, for example, run a job, and even though he's not a contracts manager or projects director or project manager, he's only a charging foreman. Maybe I could supplement the fact that I have this technology on the basis that I don't have that extra, and then I can remotely keep an eye on things. Yeah. I'm sorry for cutting across you, but I'm kind of thinking, I'm actually starting to sweat now thinking, am I going to have to go through hours of imagery?
Photos, imagery. Yeah.
Yeah. So solve that problem for me,
please. It's a really good point. So I think as a fundamental ROI on any business, and you've already just highlighted it, if you can take photos on a regular, consistent basis and it becomes just a habit within your business, you will see an ROI. Whether or not it means you dedicate your junior staff member, that's their role for 1 day a week. That's exactly, you allow it 4 or 5 hours to walk the site. There are other technologies out there that do this, where it's much more, you take the photos, or they just take a really good photo set. I guarantee you, at the end of the project, you have a massive, you benefit from it. But going back to your point, in terms of like having to go through all these photos, well, that's when you then level up to other technologies like Disperse. That I may take 1,000 photos on your construction site, but I know, and you're only really working on 20, 30% on that site. So there's no point looking at all those photos, or just look at the photos which I'm showing you where those photos are actually, where works have actually been.
So I think you're telling me you solved that problem by me not having to have over 1,000 photos. So exactly. So is that like instant capture in terms of activity?
So there's a processing time it takes for us internally. It's around 24 hours to 48 hours to actually, because we capture we take over 100,000 photos a week across all our sites.
Wow.
So it's a big task, and we're collecting a lot of data, huge amounts of data.
You're the Google Maps of construction industry.
With the Google Maps of the Earth, I think at this rate, it's insane. Or at least, in terms of like visual twins, to give you an example, we've got one of our leading clients that we have in London. We've got over 1.8 million photos.
Of
their towers that they've built.
Oh my God!
So it's like, well, what do I want to do with that? I don't know. In 10, 15 years time, when that building might want to get refurb, I have the entire playbook of how that building was built. Okay. And I'm also tracking it as well, so I can give you the digital data. So, but going back to your original point, like the tech is there now, where I might take, like I said, 1,000 photos, but I know you haven't worked in those areas. I've still got them if you want to look at it, but I will show you the photos of where you need to look at. And we do that, again, very visual. And that's where I get frustrated with some of the technologies that are out there. That it may help out a little bit, but it's still wanting you to do something. Okay?
Yeah, there's a human. There's a human. Yeah,
there's a human. It's 100%. Like, man,
they say that they're making it efficient and because you don't have to have X amount of people. And then you turn out that by the time you administer the product, you do need more people. And it's actually
need more people, exactly.
And then someone's sick or someone doesn't turn up, and next thing, well, who's going to do it today? Oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but I think that's a cause though in the industry anyway, because of like is it last minute? What's the terminology? Where it's not last in place, but just in time. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, just in time. Yeah. That is an issue, and that's humans just all over. Like whenever we make something that's a little bit more efficient, we do something, we end up still filling that time. Like most people will always work 40 to 50 hours a week, even though I might find this new tool that saves you 10 hours. You'll fill it up. That's what humans do. We've always done that.
So. Walking back to the hotel, I'm building this hotel in Edinburgh, and I'm down in London. So like I'm far removed from this, and I don't have the energy, time, or capacity to get to that job. And there's this, I imagine there's this like webcam set up within the business, within the hotel that you guys install.
No, so the way that our platform works, because of the dynamic nature of the building is being built and it's usually bare, we go on site and actually take photos. So an operative will actually go out on site and take a photo in the same location with a 360 camera above their head and take a photo. They take a snapshot.
Stop.
And literally just do that the entire building.
So one of your guys, one of your staff.
Yeah. Well, that's what we offer. There are other people out there. There's other businesses that they will give you a camera, but they won't be able to go. There's no other platform like Disperse in terms of what we can do.
There's a guy with a helmet. There's a guy with a helmet with a 360 camera on it.
We don't do that. I think it looks silly, but also health and safety, and also we do. You can't take photos of risers at hip level with a 360 on your head.
So your guy, is it like a small camera? Is it like a chest camera?
Literally, it's a camera no bigger than an iPhone. I wish I'd brought mine. It's downstairs, but yeah, literally a small 360 camera, and it's tiny.
We're going to put images in the show links.
Do it.
Yeah. No, definitely, because. This is like, maybe people are saying that Gavin's a bit historic. He needs to catch up with him.
It's tiny. Rico Z2 or Z1 we use. It's like, I mean, that one's quite expensive. But
okay, so your man comes on the job. I say, hey, Will Junior, how are you? Off you go.
Yeah, we do everything.
So we show him around. The project.
Don't have to do that. We'll do that. We'll work it out. You can if you want. It'd be nice to know where everything is, but we'll turn up. We'll have all safety credentials. We've already asked for your GA location plans. We've already mapped everything out. The first week or two, it takes us some time, and we don't necessarily allow those to be high quality. We don't, because we're learning the project side. But once we get going, we consider ourselves a silent partner. I don't want to burden you. And I just want you guys to carry on building, and I'll give you the data, and I'll give you data which I think is useful to you.
But how often does he have to come to site?
Typically once a week.
Okay, so you're getting. So there's no camera shots being done when your guy is not on site, obviously.
That's correct. Yeah. So there is a flaw in the mechanism. It's a lot of work can happen in a week. Yeah, you're right. We see it, and we'll still capture it because if we visually can still see it, then we'll capture it. Obviously, there's times where you do work and then you put a wall or a ceiling on. That is a problem. And the way that we address that is by working with the project team. So look, just leave it. Do all your works on the Friday. We'll take the photos, for example, on the Monday. And then the Tuesday, you then put your walls and your ceilings on, etc. And that seems to be an easy enough compromise when you can plan works out far in advance. Because we will take the photos. You tell us on what day you want us to take the photos, and we'll just take it.
Yeah, but you can schedule your guy to be there when the critical moments of the site are happening.
Typically we can do that anyway. But I mean, we do work on projects that are fairly large that usually they can wait a day to be able to get us in there, because there's enough float going on that they haven't, they're still progressing far enough that the walls we haven't already captured, if that makes sense. So. It is a small element, which is a difficulty that we're trying to address better. But the fundamental element is that we're tracking more tasks in progress than that kind of outweighs it.
But if everybody's communicating correctly about the quality and the expectation, well, then you'll know that Tuesday there's a pour, and that's when we need you. Yeah,
exactly, and we definitely see that. And but no, and it's interesting because the industry is changing. Because right now, there's a lot of general contractors, large contractors. Our key clients are tier one contractors. $500 million to over $1 billion in terms of revenue in the UK and even more in America. But our technology and our services, our platform is the price point is reducing, but also the value is becoming more well known and more easy to understand. And so we're now seeing subcontractors use us.
Well, this is where I was kind of, I want to ask you, what are your clients asking you, or what is their objectives, or what is their sort of, the reason we're talking to you is X?
What are the key, yes. So we are a progress tracking tool. So the key element for the majority of our clients is they want to have a better understanding of what progress is happening across their site versus planned. Okay.
Right. Stop you there.
Okay.
Why did I want to do that?
Well, a few reasons. One is it is a saving on their labour in terms of their planner or their scheduler or their team.
So immediately I'm thinking, are we overpaying for labour? That's exactly what was in my mind, is that they're looking at this and going, these guys are stinging us for extra man hours that we don't have to pay for.
There is an argument to be said that. There is an argument to be that. There's also the argument to be said that we're providing that planner more value than walking around on site taking notes, where that planner is designed to plan.
Okay.
So the idea here is that we're providing that planner with more value that they can provide more of the value that they are trained for.
Okay. I still get you, but like there's a sort of motivations would be different depending on the client.
Fundamentally, there is Disperse ultimately is enhancing the capabilities of a person. And if we're giving them more capabilities, then that person can therefore work on more opportunities. So then thus, yes, overall, you could say that there is a reduction of, how do I put this? If for one person, I can now then do two people's jobs, then you could say that there's a job lost there. Or you could argue that that person who's buying the equipment, well, now that planner or that site manager or that site operative can now do two jobs. Okay, that's a bit of an extreme, but just to kind of keep it simple, that's the capabilities. And that's where we do see project teams, in theory, they say they're getting leaner, but reality is just that they're just being more efficient on the site.
Yeah, I'm actually reminiscent about the old days when you had a clerk of works on a project.
We are, and in one respect, Disperse is a digital form of a digital clerk of works. We're tracking progress, we're tracking against time, but we're also tracking quality as well, and we're tracking when works go in.
I know if you speak to a lot of people today, they'd probably say, if I could get a hold of the clerk of works that was on a job with me, I tell you what I'd do with him or her.
Disperse.
But I know they were a thorn in the side for a lot of contractors, but they were a necessary evil at the time as well. Yeah. But I don't think they ever really fully replaced that individual in the strength of what that individual was capable of doing if you got the right clerk of works.
Correct.
And I think we lost that bit of quality control. And you might say, oh look, the QS picked it up, and there was QAs being brought into the job and QCs and all this kind of stuff. And maybe on a
big project,
on a larger project, like a data center or maybe something like that. But in the main, there seemed to be a sort of a vacuum when the clerk of works was taken out of the model.
I agree, but I don't necessarily think it's been. I think it's just been repurposed, like you mentioned. But I also think it's just technology now has come along to help assist. It's like I was discussing with a client recently, and we were talking about the site report, the site diary, and there's an issue with it because there's lots of people writing it, and there's also an issue that not many people do write it anymore. However, I would argue that with all the photos that people are capturing on your iPhone, or discussions that are happening in WhatsApp groups, or discussions that are happening in emails, the site diary is there in like a broad sense. It's just in lots of different forms of communications, and it just makes it complicated for teams to kind of go back in time. All right, there's a leaked work on on floor 40 of a project. Go through all the emails, what was happening, who was doing stuff. That's a long time, but at least it's there. And rather than it being written down and scribbled, I mean, I think projects are just getting more complicated, and there's more tech, which thus has more complications to it.
Does you'll know this answer, but does your clients then share that information like in a shared location for everybody to look at?
So this is an interesting one. So the reason why is because I think the industry is right now is slowly waking up to reality capture, like 360 technologies, like I've mentioned, but also just like platforms like Disperse, and the full capabilities of it. And what I mean by that is there's some general contractors who are very open, and they will let everyone to have access to the data, or maybe they'll just give them the photos. But there's also some other general contractors who are like, no, not giving it to anyone, because they want to hold on to it. They want to hold on to that information. And there is a behavior change that happens from subcontractors and trades when they start seeing our type of technologies, because we know more than potentially they do. I'm being frank, we do. But I also see that there is a glimmer of hope that ultimately, if I'm giving you photos, if that's all it is, just photos, everyone I think should be able to benefit from that. I think, and I've got some project sites where I'm on 2 or 3 times, and it's kind of like we're kind of missing the point here. It's like if I shared all the photos, it's like we share all the same drawings. Why can't I share all the same imagery?
100%.
Anyone can walk around it. It's just that one contractor is better taking photos than the other.
Well, I'm looking at lessons learned here, and I'm thinking to myself, that there's massive training modules that could be taken out of
huge.
out of the contents. Like
there's a lessons learned for contractors to actually just do lessons learned.
Great point. Yeah,
I'm just being blunt on it, and I know I'll probably have some clients.
No, but
I don't. I mean, I've got an as-built record of your building. Okay.
No, I get it. Like, I'm just thinking of culture. Like, it just goes to show you that there's some people, companies still out there going, that's you got to trust. If there's a trust-based system where everybody's equal. Maybe they might be making more money on floor 1 or ground floor or basement or whatever else, but like they might know all the facts. Therefore, you might say to them, look, I'm willing to share this information with you and I'm willing to accept your cost. But if you were to do this job again, and I know that you can do it, with less man hours, would it not be a better model that exactly how much this took, and I know exactly how much it took, and therefore I can have a better working relationship with you because we're more transparent.
Yeah. And I think that's happening. I think contractors are slowly looking at this and going, how can we actually help? I think it's just new. And construction is slow. That's the wrong term. Well, it's slow to us humans, because we're only on the earth for 70, 80 years, 90 years. Okay, but relatively, construction is actually very quick. You build a building, it will last for...
Oh, it's massive.
It might take you 2-3 years to build a building, okay? But that building will last for 100 years. So it's a baby. It's not even a toddler, And so it's just the way that we perceive it. So, so for us, it takes a long time, relatively, for us, for things to change, but in reality, construction's vast. And
well, I see you've progressed the market. This is the way I wanted to have you on, because it gets people thinking. It gets people thinking in a wider vision. Yeah, you might be only a one-man band or only have 20 or 30 people working for you, but to know that technology is out there at the moment that's actually doing this.
Yeah,
you might never use it, but to be aware that there is this model out there that's doing this. I think initially, from my ignorant experience, it was pretty much CCTV type cameras that were watching trucks coming in and out.
There is technology. I'd recommend Qflow or Foresight for that. But that's my role, to try to better that, and it's a big industry. And in some respects, it sounds, everything I've just said, it sounds incredibly complicated. But reality really is not that difficult. Taking photos, you palm that off to us, we just take that. So that's one less element that you need to worry about. And then when it comes to actually us internally, all right, we used an element of computer vision and AI to help ascertain state of change, so to speak. But we still have internal teams essentially looking at photos and comparing and seeing what works do. So essentially the works that your team do when they go out on site and going, right, I know how much work has been done. That's a human being. That's almost that. It's just, we've just offloaded that into somewhere else. And we're just more efficient because we can work at different times of the day. We know where the works are. So you walking around an entire building, it's well, you don't need to do that because you're only working on floor 5. But the QS doesn't know that. The scheduler doesn't know that. That's where, and that's the bit where we're just trying to leverage. And I like coming on podcasts like this because I think it's a great way of trying to help explain what we're trying to do and what we're trying to help and benefit the industry. Because ultimately, I'm trying to make everyone's lives on a construction site better and easier. And so you guys can make way better decisions, because ultimately you're making a decision based upon the best intentions from everyone else that have told you. But unfortunately, that's the drawback. It's sometimes it's a gut feeling, or it's it's Chinese whispers almost. And then when you make a decision, it's based upon, unfortunately, poor decisions. And that's why in the industry, we have like 90% of projects are run over program. So, and then, we're hopefully there to help highlight when you're going off your program so you can bring it back in as soon as possible.
So talk to me about, I don't want to get too technical for the whole conversation, but is there models that are starting to create out of this that are sort of blueprints for rolling out contracts in future, so that it just doesn't become a imagery collection tool?
Yes, yeah. So we are definitely, there's a number of key clients that are just pushing us on all their projects. We're still obviously competing against our competitors. We are still fundamentally the leaders in the industry in what we can track. We can track anything visual throughout all phases of work, so even superstructure. It's just trying to prove the ROI, trying to prove also the cost of inaction. A lot of our, sometimes we'll do stuff and the project may relatively go well, but you don't know. And you could say we're kind of like an insurance to one degree. It's like, I get insurance for my car and my house. I'm really hopeful that nothing ever happens, but I'm, really happy that when it does happen, there's a fire or anything, that I've got my insurance, I can claim it. Disperse is like another form of that in my respect. Yeah. Because you don't know what might happen on a project. You can go into a project having a bad feeling, which we do get clients come to us and say they're not quite sure, how this is going to pan out, or they know that they've stretched themselves on a project. We want you to be able to support us if something does come up. So there's other little elements here, but it's complicated.
So where do you see the tech going in the construction industry?
Everyone keeps banging on about 3D BIM and 4D BIM and robots, and I think personally they need to spend more energy on how they can make the teams on the ground more efficient, that are not all IT literate. No offense, I'm not saying, but I work with a lot of people who they struggle to even use a web browser, and our platform is designed to make it as simple as possible so that they can see the data and the information that they need. And they're advancing at a rate, but they have to remember that there's a majority of people who are actually on construction sites, they don't have that skill set. And I think
it wasn't a prerequisite to get the job that they're in.
Exactly. And I think it's been a bit of we haven't done them service, in terms of actually supporting them, in terms of them leveling up. Just like silly little examples, like even like Windows. Some of your listeners and got a Windows laptop. It's had advancements in the last couple of years in terms of like new software. Even when I was a consultant, I never got training. There was no training to show me how to use the next level of efficiency gains. I learned it because I'm just a bit of a geek, and I'm just naturally, technology comes to me a little bit more easier than others, but no one else. So if you imagine on a project site, on a construction site, where some of the guys, they've gone from having no laptop at all to having a laptop, and then working their way up, and then no one necessarily training them on the next set of like technologies. I think it's wrong. I think I've literally sat down next to project managers on a construction site where I have it pops up a screen, enter your password. Well, I don't know what to do. And luckily, I know how to use it, and I've helped him to get through those steps. And he's trying to work on a 50, 60 million pound building, but they're not training him how to do the simple tools of just how to use a laptop. I think it's wrong. And then we have all these things about 3D BIM and 4D BIM. It's like the fundamental is you got to train his team down below.
Keep it simple though. I think that's what you're trying to say is like, let's not run ahead of ourselves and just sort of like,
sorry, Gavin.
It's obviously heartfelt because it came across that way. Do you know what I mean? And we've definitely have guests on the podcast, and that issue has come up a number of times in terms of, let's be honest about the barrier to entry within construction is low enough to allow everybody to have a very good lifestyle and get into a job that's going to, support their family and support their kids and lifestyle. And, it's a massive plus to the social economy in terms of having a construction industry that's booming and having these people at work, and then to start loading them up with high tech, complicated. And I'm not saying putting the password in is complicated because, but with all due respect, but there should be fundamentals that we should sometimes take a step back and go, hold on a minute. Let's have a level base for everybody, that they have some form of, foundational technical experience.
Correct. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I appreciate that, and I do want to point one thing though. I think what has shown with the introduction of like ChatGPT and OpenAI is that it's not the trade skills that are going to be going soon by AI. It's the people. It's the ones that have got the degrees. It's the highly qualified professions. That's where that is going. By far, and then the bits about with robots, and we see that this Boston dog robot walking around is still being manned by a person. Now, I'm not saying there aren't use cases for it, and I think there is some autonomous in it, but those robots that are running around, they still, to a degree, need a human person, a trained person to actually navigate that robot. And Elon Musk, with his Teslas, etc., he over automated everything, and he quotes it in his book that he wished he'd never done that. He put people back in. He literally was ripping out robots for his I can't remember. I think it was for his cars that he was building when Tesla was first being built. And he was ripping them out and putting humans back in. I over-engineered everything, and that's going back to my point. If you're a tradesman, your job is going to be fine. It's the person who's got a degree, which they're the ones that are going to have to really level up themselves and use technology.
Well, yeah, but I like the fact that you've said that, because you're still introducing. You haven't removed the human element. You still need the person to go out to site and do that work. And basically, what you're saying is, look, I've got the new generation, or the clerk of work version 2 in real time, that can actually make a big difference to your site.
Massively. So
that you can put the handbrake on and go, that wall is after knocking us back a week because number one, it's not built correctly, and number two, took the guys too long to build it,
mm-hmm.
or somebody's telling us porkies that it's taking more man hours to build that wall.
That never happens in construction.
Listen, Will, I want to wrap it up, but is there anything exciting on the cards for Disperse in regards to? I know you're working in America and the Middle East and stuff like that. You can share any success stories with us? And
yeah, so I was hoping for a few projects to land just before this call, but they haven't landed yet. So that's part of sales. But I am pushing for expansion in America. We were on the East Coast, and we're now looking at the West Coast, and Saudi as well. Still pushing, but we've got some projects coming up in Dublin. So if anyone in Ireland and also across the UK.
They might. I wouldn't send over one of your staff. They might get kidnapped on the job if the fellas think that their man hours are going to be cut. No, I'm only messing.
We do hire locally, I think the core element is that we're really trying to help the boots on the ground, and I'm really proud of what Disperse is doing. And ultimately, the core aim is that we're trying to make the industry more efficient. And
you're adding value to the industry regardless of
exactly. And I don't feel like I'm doing it too over technical, if that makes sense. Like, even though our platform, I might have talked about AI and stuff like that, but I fundamentally think our platform just fits into a project. And and I don't like all these technologies that jump over and then try to push down. I don't think that's organically enough. It needs to happen more organic in a project team. And that's kind of like my worry that I see. But big high hopes for Disperse over the next couple of years. And looking forward to hopefully Gavin, maybe in a couple of years' time, I'll be back on telling you about our next step in. Are we probably talking about robots as well?
No, we'd love to have you back on. I'm interested to see this, because it's an exciting time to see, the impact that you're going to have. Like, it'd be good maybe if you could share a few links with us on maybe explainer videos and, stuff that we could put in the show notes for the listeners.
If you want more information, feel free to go to our website, disperse.io. There's a relatively there's a video on there explaining this, what Disperse do. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn at Will Synnott, and feel free to connect with me, and I'd be more than happy to explain further. I've also got some webinars on our website as well that go into the actual platform in more detail if anyone wants to watch me blabber about how Disperse works.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's no doubt about your passion, and definitely comes across, and for that alone, it's great I just love listening to people that actually are so passionate about what they do, and it definitely comes across. And I think,
I appreciate that,
if anything, it's a credit to you that you have that sort of drive, motivation, and you really want to do the right thing for the customer, and it comes across. So well done.
I appreciate that, Gavin. That's really kind of you, and thanks again for having me on today.
No problem. Well done. Talk to you soon, Will. Take care.
Thanks. Cheers.